So we'll just quickly go through what we've done in the last 4 weeks. Just introduce a few new things into the mix as well. Right. Have you guys tried the Node scaffolder? Yeah. So I think we first get started. Let's start with a new, completely new Node project. Week 5. Uh, yeah. Let's say like what kind of class should we work on? Like you guys worked with cars just before and football players. Yeah. Yeah. Students, systems, PC.
Beverages. Coffee would have a little lunch option there, or cappuccino. Food.
Yeah, let's make beverages. So just it doesn't ask. Yeah. So what is it? Nodes. Yeah, we'll use JavaScript. Let's go with Babel for this one.
Yeah, sorry. I kind of missed the first class where we saw Scott folder. As you just saying like two sentences.
So it's a command line utility, which basically creates introduces some packages for you.
Okay.
And creates a few scripts. So you'll see like right now we just have our package JSON, right?
Yeah, sure.
And so it's asking like, do you want like TypeScript installed or you want to work just with JavaScript?
Okay.
If it was TypeScript, then it would, introduce some settings for that. Similarly, if I wanted like Rollup or Babel or Webpack, then it would introduce settings for that. Yeah.
So start first.
So if you see now, yeah, it's created a source folder so we'll be working in the source folder, and it has also introduced Babel for us, right, with some settings, and it also has introduced some scripts for us to use Babel with.
Quick question. What's the difference between Babel and Webpack?
It's
a big question, but
I mean, you can kind of do similar things with both of them. It's but
Webpack is a bundler.
Yeah.
And Babel is transpiler.
well, that's just the difference.
They're very different.
Yes, but
Webpack can include Babel.
Got it. Okay.
you can also use both of them. But like, are they fundamentally different, or you can also do bundling with Babel, or not really?
No, Babel doesn't do bundle.
Okay.
That was just purely a compiler.
Yeah.
But Babel just combine, for example, like ES6 or Neonamer to that's all.
So you can see that mostly it's given us build-in watch commands, right? And build will take whatever is in the source folder and then compile it into this folder. What it's giving us an option to do is to write ES7 compliant code as well. So, for example, the import-export statements, which we haven't used right now, which are becoming even like available in browsers already, but Node doesn't support it, so we would be able to use that. And yeah, watch is it will continuously look at the source folder and compile into the dist folder. So it's also downloaded dev dependencies accordingly, right? So dev dependencies are what you don't need to run the app in production. You just need to work. So once you have the dist folder, then you don't really need Babel anymore. You can just run that. Yeah. And yep, and there's also pre-start, and yeah, there's a test. So yeah, there's just the index.js, but we would need to do npm install just to the Babel and all that is fetched, because it only wrote into the package JSON.
That's very smart. So the stuff folder just like package.json and then
Yep.
just NPM stuff.
That folder is written by Marco, right?
Yep.
What? It's actually behind the.
Yeah, he just kind of like hack them off and then wrote.
Yeah. So if you run Node now, yeah, because we haven't compiled it, I think we'll need to watch. Okay, we're watching. Yeah. So it compiled. Yeah. Source index to this index now, right? And the new terminal. Just go into that and go into this folder and Node over here. Yeah. So then
Run the compiler.
yeah.
I was doing manually, so I compile first and then those.
Yeah. What you could also do is like you can also do this. Oh yeah, there is a and start. That's right. So we can just do npm start over here. Don't need to go inside this folder. So that's the concept behind scripts. It's kind of like package like functionalities or outside the app into a way which you can run conveniently.
More or less the defaults are these ones, like test, restart, start, view, what, there are several.
I think mostly you will get like test and start in packages and usually, and the test one is the default one, and start would just be, I think, Node dot or something like that.
But I also want to use Node.js, and I have like 2 watches.
Node.js is for running the server.
Okay, but wasn't it also in scripts?
Yeah, you can.
I'm not sure.
So you would still need 2 different processes, like one which is recompiling and one which is reloading the app.
Okay.
So ideally, that's why I'm also running 2 terminals. In the first terminal, I've just left the recompiling. Yeah, but you can also combine them into one script as well. It's yeah, but you could have another one. Yeah, you could just do something like what about so you could do something like Node.js this index.js. So then that would work as well. So now I can do npm yeah, that's a bad name. Yeah, I think. Oh yeah, I haven't installed it, Node.js, but it would be yeah. Yep, can do that. So first things first, let's start a class for it, right? So into source. Yes. No, we have it over here. So how do you write a class? We're gonna be writing a class called beverages, and then we're gonna like it's gonna be similar to what you guys did with cars, for example. Then we're gonna create a server. So I'm just gonna do a recap of what we've done and introduce some new functionalities into the server.
Class beverages for
Yeah. Okay. What are you guys doing? I'm just going to recap what we've done in the last 4 weeks. So if you're a bit behind, I would really recommend focusing and ask me questions and tell me to stop, because I haven't been through all the classes which you have been, so I might also do some things which you haven't seen in class. So just to be, yeah. So what's next? Constructor. Yeah, it takes parameters. Right? And then what parameters do we want?
In that case, I think two classes. One class beverage and then the other class beverages.
Ah, yeah.
Because like often name a beverage.
Yeah. That's a good observation. Should even rename it.
Well, you need to name the name of the file.
I mean, it's a convention. Yeah. So let's say name brand.
What is the name of that? What's the difference between name and brand?
Well, like
No, hot. We can put a boolean, so we can know if it's a hot beverage or a cold beverage.
that's fine. Let's have color. I'll remove brand. Quantity. Yeah. Let's just stick with this one. Yeah. Is there a way to do constructors differently?
Yeah.
What would you do then?
A constructor?
Yeah.
I just omit this.
You omit it? You don't use a constructor. You say?
We can do that in the new version.
This dot name is good name. Yeah, but can you also take an object inside a constructor? Yeah, you can take. Is there any point of doing that though? So the thing is, like, a constructor now is going to take these 4 parameters, right? You can omit some parameters on the right hand side. Then it won't take those values, right? But definitely you cannot add more parameters. A constructor will not take more parameters, right? It will only take maximum of these 4 parameters, right? So for our use case, it's going to be fine. Like, we can live with it.
Yeah.
But sometimes you also have cases in which there might be something more arbitrary in the class as well. Like, as much as possible, you should try to define what exactly the interface is going to be. But sometimes you also want some flexibility. In that case, you might also take an object parameter, because the object you don't. You could do the spread on it, or you could still keep it nested, because again, like, it's going to be stored as like an object in memory, right? So you can even nest it. You can also take arrays, for example, to construct as well. But
So you're saying taking as a parameter an entire object, and in that object we put whatever you want.
Yeah, you could also do that, but then you do lose. Yeah, there's many options. You could, when you take an object, you could decide to spread it and then use the properties, right? Or you could also decide to keep it as an object and save the object as an attribute as well. No.
In this case, I think it's spread will be better.
Something like like info, and then information would be like an object, and you don't know what you want, like somebody to add remarks or notes kind of thing, So let's start with the simple one.
I was thinking like the whole parameters in one object. For example, just
You could.
and then
Yeah, you would often also see that kind of constructors as well, especially if you, like if you're doing more like not like an interface, like a class, but you're doing more like something for storing data. So, like if you're also taking an array, so you don't want to limit, like, how many elements could there be. So then you just said like you would do something like this, right?
Dot underscore name equal to
Private.
yes.
Dimension for private.
Yeah.
We have private and
There's no real private, it's just a mention. The class we don't have private.
sometimes I do.
Not really. Yeah, see, like it's not necessary to do that. It's necessary to do that if you're trying to keep it private but expose the functionality in other ways. You might see. Right? So, and blah, 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 right? Let's open an index.js. How do I access that class over here?
So we can import it.
Hmm? Yeah, but first you need to require or import it, right?
We can import it.
Yeah. How do I do that? Mhm. Yeah, that's what I want. Yeah. Yeah. You could also do that. Thanks for that. We have some problem. Why is it?
No. Stand, you know, the underline.
How do I? Okay. I don't know. We'll have to live with that for now, unfortunately.
I don't know if I can.
Mm-hmm.
Not recognize it.
Where's my mouse? Second. Yeah. So we'll do import average
Curly braces. Because it's not equal.
Okay. Should we try run it? Yeah. Start. Okay. So npm start is going to do a build for us anyway. It's unexpected token. Hmm? Yeah.
I think it's because you need to say
Yeah,
beverage as beverage, right?
I think it. Cannot find module beverage.
Yes, short flash.
Correct. It's cleaning. So let's do a new beverage, right?
Need a default for exporting.
Yeah. Otherwise, you can nest it within an object.
I think you probably should just put an export on the class and you'll work on.
You can try it as well.
And then in the other part, can you quite great.
Yeah, we can see if it really works or not when we try to create an instance of it. So what beverage should we make first? What beverage should we make first? Heineken. Is it a hot beverage? I wouldn't think so. And yeah, let's just do that. And just print it, right?
Yeah, you need to put the current rate, the curly braces in the import. Curly. I just put it? Sorry, I'm blind.
Oh, I know the Heineken name is in green. So beautiful.
So far, any issues?
Because you don't have validation, so it's not complaining.
All right. So let's do validation for these two guys just to begin with, right? What should we do for name? Type of? Yeah. Okay. What should I do now? It's going to be a single line. I think we can live with that. So how do I raise an error? Yeah. New error.
Would actually like getting rid of catching error.
So let's try and raise it, right? Yeah. It's faster. Let's do that next to it. Okay. So, okay. Seems like our error worked just fine. Is the validation fine or? What about this?
It's not named.
Yeah. So would this be caught or not caught?
There's still an instance of something.
Yeah, it's a falsy value.
Oh, okay.
What if I have a string called 0? So I cannot have a string called 0.
Like this?
It's like 0, the number 0.
It's a number anyways, it will.
An integer or a string of 0. If it's a string of 0.
Yeah. Would this work or not?
Yes.
It wouldn't catch it. The string would just be named 0. Right? I mean, it would work.
Yeah. So, but I think because our validation condition is quite simple, it might fail in, something more gated version of what Emil is saying. So, you'll see like how databases have better validation logic built in, so you could just bubble it up. So when you try to save to the database, that will, your database will raise an error, so your ORM will raise an error, so your class will raise an error, and then your program will catch it. That's the, yeah. And what should we do for the other property? Yeah, give me a minute. Okay. Yeah. How are you going to do that now? So, yeah. Yeah.
If not, it's already not Boolean, then it's also not undefined.
That's right. It needs to be a Boolean to be defined.
But what is undefined is not a Boolean value. Undefined is different from Boolean.
Let's test it. That's my guess.
Have like two instead of the Boolean in that case.
Oh no. Yeah, so it yeah, this condition failed as well.
So it is equal to undefined, it's not equal to undefined.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, then let's say leave it blank and
Yeah, we need to check as well. Huh. Yeah, so our validation is fine, just about. So just saying, like, things will get, a bit tricky with validation. Okay, so Heineken now at this point is fine, right? But I can always do that now. And this is not great for your class, right? No errors. Although if I would have tried to do it over here, this would have been caught by a validation logic. So your validation is getting bypassed.
then that's why you use consider the property of the user that may work on the property.
Okay. So let's implement data sensors for name. So set name. What should I do here?
First of all, I think you should like change the property to like add an underscore, otherwise what you say.
Here? Which one?
This dot underscore name.
Why do I need to do that?
Because there's a second, you're still accessing the name from outside of the class.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you say, okay, Heineken dot name, even if you have the setter and the property name is the same as the setter, so you're still accessing the property itself, and you're just changing it directly, not user setter.
Yeah, that's one reason. The other reason is like whatever you, let's write the setter thing first, right? So we do this dot, and let's say it was just name, right? And I did this. Right? So this is the basic set operation. But this operation itself would call the setter again. You'll be trapped in a infinite loop. So that's also part of the reason why you need to create the shadow property. And does this need a value?
No.
Why not?
Because you're not setting.
And what should I do here?
Return this underscore.
Does anyone see any problems here? Okay. So would this raise an error? No, we haven't moved the validation. We should also move the validation, right? Yeah. So let's check about that. Right. So now is our code fine? Would we get an error over here? Let's see. We have an error, and yeah, name is required, and it happened in line this 15. Okay, we don't know for sure, so let's comment it out. So now we shouldn't get any error if everything was fine. Yeah, so it seems like it was this line which created the error. Now you have the question that is this protected, right? Because we don't have the validation in the constructor. So let's try it. Why would?
Why?
That name still equals to null. No, back in index.js.
Ah, okay. That's it. Yeah. So this is no good because we should get an error over here as well, right? How can we fix that? Introduce this over there as well. How about just changing it? It won't happen now because it will be assigned to the shadow property inside the setter. So it wouldn't retrigger. So over here we were assigning to the shadow property, right? So yeah, like this wasn't actually getting called even over here in the constructor because this set gets called when you try and assign name, not underscore name. Right? So we can try and change over here for that it becomes name as well, not access the shadow property directly. So we will try to reuse what we've written in the setter of the name. And now it works. Now we get the error, even from here.
No, but the thing is that then you're accessing, go back to beverage. At the end of the setter, you're still trying to get underscore names. Where's the
Just setting up a new property,
Yeah.
the shadow.
that's the shadow property.
Yeah. So if
Okay.
you'll see now. So let's run this. Yeah. So you see, because yeah, that will raise an error. Because when you try to do this, right, this invokes the setter, and the setter raises an error. And before, exactly. So that's the main intention behind getters and setters. Although there are lots of issues with the implementation as well. Yeah, which you'll see that sometimes you can have a setter which does not raise an error, but it doesn't do the job because the setter is implemented. So you think that you managed to set the value, but then you console log it right after that, and nothing has happened. It can totally be the case, right? If you wouldn't have done a throw, but had done nothing instead, there, it would have been like that, which is like bad practice. But yeah, and that's often you do end up in that situation. Yeah.
Understand why you use a setter, but I don't really get the getter part. Why do you need to have a certain control?
It's mostly that the moment you introduce a setter, you also need to introduce a getter as well. Because if you see over here, like,
But I mean, the getter is always gonna be returned.
but look, it actually in the memory of the object, there is actually nothing called name. If you try and do this dot name without having a getter, it won't return anything.
Okay.
So you need to proxy underscore name to name in return as well.
But the structure is always going to be that.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. But the thing is also that you could also do something more functional in the getter as well. Like you could do, yeah, like you could store it like in a Boolean, but or like as an index, and then you could send like you could have an array and send the value which corresponds to that. I wouldn't recommend it particularly, but yeah, you could do. And so till now it works. Okay, yeah, validation works. Just wanted to see if we can access it. Let's console log both ways. Okay. Yeah, you see that although there's no name property saved like that, but still you're able to access it, and this is mostly the function of the getter. Right.
I'm thinking that, for instance, like in some examples, it happened that you have a constructor with two parameters, it could be first name and last name, and both of them then join in one property of the class. Yeah. It's going to be full name. Yeah. It's going to be an object with first name and full name. Yeah. You can call the set together on that full name and just return string. Yeah, concatenate both, so you got like a more clear first name, last name rather than the full object.
So that's a question. Like you could either do it with a method, like a regular function within the class. It could do that, or you could have a property which only has a getter, doesn't have a setter. So you cannot set full name, but you can get full name as composed by first name plus last name. Right?
If you put a setter, you need to have a getter, but you can put a getter without a setter.
You can do either.
Okay.
I mean, if you don't put a getter, you just won't be able to access it.
You don't want the property to be changed. You just don't put the setter.
So whether it should be a method or it should be a property with only a getter is also contentious right now, because although it makes it like a bit easier, so you don't have to invoke it, you can just like tag things onto it, right? But still, like it is invoking a function in the background, so why shouldn't it be a method, right? So yeah, but also try and use getters and setters mostly around these sort of use cases where you're invoking. Don't just do it just for like each property, just create a shadow property and it gives nothing. You probably introduce a bug, with zero effort by making a mistake.
Lights,
Yeah.
probably they have the sensor that measure,
Darkness inside. Yeah. And let's say now we want a class over here, which is a list of beverages, because why not, right? Should I create a new file or should I just keep working in here? Beverages now. Yeah, we have to fix our exports now. Export class beverages. Right. So that's the choice. Like you could either export in front of everything, or you can export object, beverages. Either way is fine. Yeah. What should this one have? How should we? What should it take? Just one.
or pressing like more than one.
Yeah, you could do that. How do I do that? And what should we do?
Beverage for each.
Yes.
I mean, the validation.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, one step at a time. Let's first link it up. Beverages. Right. Yeah. What's the next beverage? We're not going to have any hot beverages like this. Sure. So let's create a new beverage. And I would say like working on your own computer is
Fine.
different. Yeah. So it worked. Of course, you do have the option to just create an array over here, and then just like then you don't need a spread operator. Either way is fine. No. Okay. What's the validation we should do?
Beverage for each.
Should we do the validation over here, or should we create a setter for it? Yeah. Which is let's say let's just call it this.
Actually, they're assuming that it's gonna be one.
It could just be one as well. So, yeah, that's true. Let's do that. Let's run it. Okay. Fast, so good.
So, if
Mhm. For each, or is there a array thing which checks if all of the ones fulfill a condition? Yeah. Some returns Boolean, or it returns the subset. I think, isn't it any, or okay? Let's say. We can have the negation with some, because even if the first one unfulfills a condition.
Doesn't some return the value of the first true?
Oh, actually, we can just do it. Let's keep it simple. Beverage. Basically, all of them should fulfill, right? Yeah. So the beverage needs to be instance of. Right? So we need to wrap this in a if statement, right? Is this clear to everyone? What's happening here? Just making sure that all of them are an instance of beverage. Well, so let's test it out. No, something has failed. Cannot. Of undefined. Sorry, yeah. My bad. Okay. Now let's create one, like whatever, null in between. You can put anything, null string 1, 5. All right. Let's make sure it's the right error. Yeah, only takes a beverage. Right. So then question, okay. So this works fine. What would happen if I did this? What am I doing? beverages dot beverages. We can fix it later, but it's easier this way. It's an array, right? With this weapon, let's see. Do you know why the error happened?
No.
Somebody knows why the error happened? Yeah. Well, it is an array. It is an array. Yeah, we did. No, it's not. Cannot read property push of undefined. So apparently this is undefined. Why is it undefined? It's clearly there. We created it. We had console logged it before. It clearly is there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this works fine. There is no error here. The error is over here. So apparently this is undefined. Why is it undefined? Give you a hint. So I just console log it before the error happens. So every time you use something new, there's some risk associated. So look, beverages, it has. Why do we have the error? Because we didn't make a getter for it. Yeah, and this is what it's not that nice on this.
Even if we're trying to say it.
But I think what I really understood was still valid because it's what we're doing beverages go into the setter and then and these return setter is a function. Function is returned undefined.
Setter only is when you're assigning it a value. Otherwise, you're trying to get the value. It's a getter. So there was no getter. So it was like doesn't exist. What are you talking about? There's nothing like that. Right? So run this. Yeah, and actually there's no error. Apparently, even this would work.
She's right. You're just pushing it so you're not actually reassigning it.
Yeah.
We just find it.
Yeah, there's unfortunately no way to. There is a way to protect lists as well in that way, but it's not that easy as. Yeah. So just remember that this part. Like there's some things. The way would be to actually. There's something JavaScript introduced called, I think, proxies, in which you can proxy a function. So you can run something before a member function and something after. So you basically insert the validation there as well. But then you would need to do that for each of the things possible on the array, which is not even within your class, So yeah, it doesn't catch all. Just wanted to show. Yeah, it only goes so far. So instead, what we do is like we shouldn't use push, but we create our own method. Okay, we create something like this.
You can validate. I mean, nothing is
Is it possible that we just write the method called push inside of this class?
Yeah, you could also overwrite it then.
Yeah, so that way then
Yes, but there's like push, slice. I mean, you will need to protect all the array methods. Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah.
Make that like you're doing now, then add validation, then push from there.
Exactly. But yeah, like I mean, when it would be a simple value like a float or like string or integer, it's direct assignments are protected because there's only one, but yeah, arrays are not. So you do add beverage. So what do you do? If whatever. Okay, we can also beverage instance of beverage. Hmm? Yeah. Well, it's not right. Yeah. So yeah, there's no way getting around it in a simple manner. So we'll have to do that. Otherwise, this stuff. Yeah. This stuff. No, you can use it like this. Because it's this first calls the getter, then it gets that thing, then it. If you would do this dot beverages is equal to beverages dot append or something, then exactly. But maybe that would be a way of doing the validation, not repeating the validation. It could be actually be if you reassign it into a copy of it. You make a copy of this dot beverages. You push it into that, and then you assign this dot beverages is equal to that copy. Then, because it's a setter, the validation would work. Yeah, but definitely not pretty nice. So this now should go through. Yeah. Right. What if we just inserted something again? Yeah, should check it. Yeah. No. Sorry. Because it doesn't need. Yeah. So let's just test it again first. Yep.
It's okay.
Usually parentheses are called beverage instance of
Okay. Yeah.
beverage.
Yeah. Fine. Hopefully it's the right error. Okay. It is the right error. All right. Let's just make sure it. Yeah, it doesn't reject good value. Right. Looks fine.
It's not even showing you how to do.
If you had to watch instead, so test it every time you say.
So next, what we can do is we can try and now expressify it. We have, like a class list class which works reasonably. So, yeah. What should I do to start with Express? Express? Package JSON. Also, let's just add body parser because we'll probably end up needing it as well as you guys saw. Body parser.
Real?
Yeah.
Do you need to save class?
Saves default.
A new version. Newer version of NPM.
No, this just like adds it to package JSON.
As the by default, it has been added the dynamic version.
Okay, so you don't need the save flag, and that's good. Yeah. Good. Okay, how do I make it Express app? Hmm? Express. Let's test it out if that's the right way to put it or not. Seems fine. Okay. Yeah. Let's comment out.
You need to call it to make sure that it's
Yeah. Yeah, it might be. So how do we start a server?
Express equals express
Hmm?
equals up equals express over
And then we have a
yeah.
and how do I assign it a port? App.listen, let's say whatever, 8080. Do we need a we can yeah. Let's make the break now. Then. Yeah. Okay, good point. Just a minute. Just talk about purpose. This is a good point to also show how to add a environment variable.
you could just make order and be that.
Yeah, this port variable is yeah, that's usually what like yeah you mostly use it for, but there's actually lots like if it's running in development or production, which database or whatever it should connect to. Sometimes, yeah, you wrap it like that. Also, sometimes there's like safety modes, like how much should it commit to the database or not? It's a lot of.
Sorry to say that. I'm checking the forecast. It's here though. Here, the glasses, you know, the leather jacket, damn, man. Yeah, many times now.